This is the What's Next podcast, Houston's #1 platform where I invite creators to share their journeys and give us a depiction of their visions. Most importantly, the last question I'll ask is, what's next?
Yo, it feel like 95.
Yeah.
Sachi on my body.
Yes.
Biggie, chicken, puffy.
Yes.
Blackballing is a hobby. And I'm wildin' in my wallies. And them valleys, no Pilates.
Houston, Texas. Welcome back to episode number 62 of the What's Next podcast, a production of Still Visionary Inc. As you can see, I'm recording. This is the second episode that I will record today. Today being April the 18th, 2020. So I want to go ahead and get some things knocked out before this upcoming week comes. So I'm recording a couple of episodes today. Listen, when boys start feeling themselves, right? When boys start feeling themselves, they start to wear smaller shirts. I got a smaller shirt on because your boy done lost some weight. Me and my wife are getting on a healthier tip, rather. And so we're trying to change our diet. So we're drinking smoothies and not eating meat and all of that. So it's got me losing some weight. So I'm feeling myself a little bit. But you already know what I came here to do, man. You know, every time I get a chance, I'm going to play this record. Okay? Like I said in episode number 61, Friday the 17th of April, right? My homegirl dropped a version of Boss You Up, Chopped and Screwed. One time for the city, Houston, Texas, baby. Let's get it. 2 times because I rock with good people. And 3 times because you already know what I came here to do, man. Demario, what up? Sir John Monet, what up? Truly Preezy, what up? What's going on with y'all? Houston, Texas is podcast number 2 today. Let's go.
Heard about me, but it's hard to find me. I lay low with my team, plotting on a milli. See, I don't work for free. Pay me what you owe me. I won't show up for free. I only come for money. If you want it, then let me know. If you want to show, send my fee before.
One time, man. This has been a minute since I played my man's record. Shout out to Echo Remix, man. Let's go.
Is what I'm asking for.
Houston, Texas, you already know what I came here to do, man. Before we get into this guest, make sure that all the creators out there, if you know any creators making records, making music, and they want their music heard, tell them I got a segment on my podcast called It's a Vibe, where I play the hottest, man. Let's go.
Always be
Here we go.
Hello.
Coach.
Hey, what's going on, Coach?
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. Welcome to episode number 62 of the What's Next podcast, a production of Still Visionary Inc. How are you?
Well, thank you.
No doubt. Let's, before we get started with the episode, let's introduce our social media handles so we don't disrupt the flow of the conversation when we get to that point.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, my name is Dana Rowe Marshall. I am a high school English teacher. I'm also a writer of many different facets. I am a mother of 3, a wife, and a loving sibling of 4.
Okay. Are you on social media?
Okay, so I'm on social media, and Coach, I'm not a big social media person, but
Okay.
I am learning to get adjusted during COVID.
Okay.
So I have a Facebook. On Facebook, I'm under my name, Dana Rowe, my maiden name, Rowe. On Instagram, I am under my writing blog, The Unorthodox Educator. So that is THEE, Unorthodox Educator.
T-H-E-E.
So that's the...
I'm sorry. T-H-U-N. Okay.
O-R-T-H.
Okay.
O-D-O-X, Educator, E-D-U-C-A-T-O-R.
Okay. So the T-H-E-E-U-N-D-O-R. No. Spell it again. I'm sorry.
Right.
Spell it again. I'm sorry. You said you teach English. I teach math. Spell it again.
No problem. Okay. So it's the THEE, Unorthodox, UNORTHODOX, Educator, EDUCATOR.
Okay. Got you. Okay. Got you. And, you know what? I'm not gonna lie. I don't have it, but I'll find it while we while we get going with the podcast. I'll find it and then I'll follow you as we are on the podcast.
Okay.
And you can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at John Ross Dike and still _visionary. If you would connect with me on LinkedIn, subscribe to my YouTube channel, like my fan page on Facebook, and visit my website at stillvisionary.com. Coach, this is a mobile podcast, right? So what I mean by that is I pack things up, put them in the comforts of my car, and I go to the creatives' various locations, and I set up in front of them just to show them that, you know, I can come to your spot and catch you in your creative space. So directly in front of me, I have all my T-shirts that I sell, and you can shop stillvisionary.com/apparel. That's stillvisionary.com/apparel.
Okay.
So what's going on, man? I know you got the news yesterday that we'll be doing the rest of the 2019-20 school year from the comforts of our house. How do you like that?
Okay, so honestly speaking, I wasn't surprised. I don't think a lot of educators were. I've been teaching for 16 years. So when I saw the way everything was going, I knew that we were going to be going back to school just because of the way the system is set up. It's too much going on, not just with COVID, but as far as the way that they've made the drastic adjustments with education. And it would have been too much for them to send us back to school with less than a month of school left. That's just like when school starts in the beginning. It's a 2-week bare minimum adjustment period, and that depends on what side of the district you're working on. It don't matter what district it is. If you're working on the urban side or the inner city school side, it takes a little bit longer to adjust to something like to the start of school. So with them coming back from COVID, you would have been adjusting 2 weeks, and then it would have been time for graduation. People would already miss proms and things like that. So that was the safest thing. How do I feel about it? I'm actually cool. It's hectic. It's crazy because I'm a mom. So I'm having to deal with my kids and homeschooling my kids. And it's crazy because you think, oh, I'm an educator, I'm a teacher, I can do this. But you have to have a system. It has to be disciplined. It has to be organized. Or you have to have a hell of a support team. Yeah. You know, my family does great with, you know, assisting me with my kids. My boys are, you know, I have a high schooler and a middle schooler. So they're able to access online and get on their computers and things. But my heart goes out to my colleagues and, you know, my teachers everywhere that have little ones, like in elementary school, because you got to walk them through. And then they're still requiring us to teach online. They're still requiring us to be live. They're still requiring us to, you know, do virtual walkthroughs and things like that. So we're still having to teach. And I've talked to a few people that I know, Coach, that are not in education. And for some reason, they want to complain about teachers not getting online or saying that their kids are not getting their work or understanding their work. And I'm thinking to myself, this is what we deal with on the daily with our kids. But you're starting to see what we deal with on the daily. You know, we got to come to that job every day, Monday through Friday, and your child comes on the bus or dropped off or what have you, and on those days they sit there or they skip class or they don't do our work or we have to call you and things like that. They're getting to see firsthand what teachers deal with. You know, hopefully, like I told one of my friends that's the principal, I said, hopefully this will allow the world to appreciate educators and coaches a whole lot more.
No doubt.
Because we do more than what you realize.
No doubt.
You know, your child is with us more than they're at home when school is in. Especially if they play sports, and you know that. They with us 12 hours a day. So by the time you send your child, it's evening time or it's night and you coming home from work, it's time for them to shower, eat, and go to bed.
Yeah. I thought
you're not having to do much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I thought I knew that school was gonna stay the way it stayed when we made that transition to virtual learning, distant learning, for the simple fact of you know them saying that we weren't gonna have finals and we weren't gonna have the STAR exams. They canceled it all. So I was like, man, what's the point in going back to school when May is the month of all the standardized testing and stuff? You know what I'm saying? So when they said that, you know, when I don't know if y'all had to do it, but at Waltrip, we have what we call an advocacy period where Tuesdays through Fridays for 30 minutes, kids come to my classroom, freshmen, that is, freshmen, and every grade level has a different. So, okay, the math department this year, Waltrip, we all had freshmen in our advocacy periods, and we were just trying to get them ready for the STAR exam. But when they canceled the STAR exam and said that there were no finals, I said, okay, well, we're going to be doing distant learning for the rest of 2019-20. You know what I mean? So, you know, it was no point in going back to school. So when I got the news yesterday, I was like, ooh, wow, okay, it's it's time.
Yeah.
It's time.
And see, we didn't, like the English department, we had, our advocacy, which they consider peacekeepers at Sterling. So we have a peacekeepers class, right? So that was like our freshman class or whatever. And it wasn't like homeroom. It's a little different because it was more like the intervention classes. Well, that was kind of the thing that a lot of us were talking about, because it was like, if they're not taking the STAR test, what are we doing online during intervention that they're not getting during that regular ELA time? You get what I'm saying? We're not doing STAR prep. They're not taking the STAR. So we're still having to make those curriculum adjustments, you know, and math is probably dealing with that too. But you know what I'm saying? Like, especially when it's a testing subject, even if they're not in school, we have to prepare them for next year.
Yeah.
And that's what I was telling somebody else. I'm like, they're out of school, but it's not like that, because it's going to be a large learning gap if they don't push it in a way in which these kids understand that they still need to do something. They still need to, you know, learn, and they still need to sharpen their mind, and, you know, just kind of keep abreast of what they are doing on grade level, because, you know, like I know, it's plenty of them that are not on grade level. So you sitting at home doing nothing is going to just make it even worse. And then next year, that's going to pose a problem when you get ready to come back in and place kids. And you know how I go and do master scheduling and all of that. They're not thinking about how that's going to affect them. The kids aren't, neither are admin or, you know, the people up top. That's really how I feel. Like, you're giving them lessons online. And then the worst of the worst, because me and you both are in HIV, was the whole post that the grades were not going to count.
Yikes.
How are we going to be the first ones to tell the world or the city or the state of Texas that those grades don't count? How do you expect these parents to be able to push their kids to do the work?
Yeah.
How do you expect the teachers to be able to coerce our kids to get online? Now, me, myself, I have great rapport with my kids. So my kids log on just because they want to get on and talk and have live sessions with me. But everybody doesn't have that luxury.
Yeah.
So I don't think that was the best thing.
I got great rapport with my kids too, but they're not rushing to get online. They're not rushing to get online.
You see what I'm saying?
They ain't rushing to get online, and I done told them.
Get bored and want to chime in, but that's about it.
I done told them, hey, I'm on here 10 to 12 Mondays and Thursdays, and 1 to 3 on Fridays and Wednesdays, and I ain't had nobody get on there yet.
See?
So
it's a task. And I've had some to get on, but not a whole lot. Now, they'll do my work, but just to go on live, it's not a whole lot.
Yeah, me too. I got some doing the work, but they don't want to get on live either. So, is this your first podcast?
What you say?
Is this your first podcast?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes,
Welcome.
so I'm excited. I'm nerve-excited.
Congratulations. Welcome. And
Thank you.
So a little bit of our history, Houston, Texas, is in the spring portion of the school year, I have been coaching softball for the past 4 years. This is my first year coach that I was the head coach of softball at Waltrip High School. So Coach Rowe and I, we met. What stadium was that? Was that Barnett or was that Butler?
We were at Butler.
We met at Butler, and we were exchanging lineups. And I said, after that, you know me, I'm always marking. I'm like, we're about to have a softball game, and I'm thinking about the podcast. And I'm like, hey, I'll do a podcast. I'd love it if you check me out sometime. And Coach Rowe was like, yeah, oh, no doubt, because I'm doing a blog. And I was like, there it is. I need to get you on the podcast. So I'm grateful that we finally connected to do this podcast. I hate that it's in these circumstances with the social distancing going on, but I have this set up to be able to do the podcast like this as well.
I know when you brought it to me, I was kind of like, it was kind of a God thing. When things happen like that for me, I have to look at the way the universe is moving, if you will. And I was just kind of talking to my sister, and my older sister is my manager, and she manages everything that I've been doing since I was 13 when I first started writing. So I kind of ran it by her, and she was like, I was telling you about a podcast. I was telling you about getting online. Like, you don't want to do it, so that would be great. And Coach, he didn't tell y'all, but I kind of was so busy and I was nervous. So at first I kind of was like, I'm going to call you back. And then I had to get my nerves up to do it, right? But he was so patient and was just like, hey, I got you. Check these out. Look at this, whatever. But I think because of where I am right now in my life and with my writing and with just being an educator and just the way that the times are changing, I've always felt like my voice was very powerful on paper. Putting ink to paper. But I've learned over my 16 years of educating, how I have been able to infiltrate the spirits of my kiddos. And I want to be able to do that in a more massive way. And I think after just watching the few podcasts of yours that you sent me and the way that you are doing this podcast, I'm like, I can dig that. So let me do it. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So I really appreciate you for even being patient with me and then, allowing me to bless your mic on your podcast.
No doubt. Okay, so we know that you're an educator. We know that you're a mom. We know that you're a wife. What should people take from this episode in regards to you outside of those things that we initially started the conversation off with?
Okay. First things first, I think what they should take from it is that I'm a real person. I'm a very genuine person. I'm a character. I like to clown. My family, my students, they know that. But I love really hard. And I'm passionate about people being great at whatever that is. So, anybody who knows me, if you were to ask them, if you were to have a quiz or put up some money and say, what is one phrase that Ms. Rowe would always say? What is one phrase that Coach Rowe would always say? They're going to tell you, she's going to tell you something about being great, because I just believe that there is some greatness in everyone. And I learned that again. My sister Adrienne taught me that, everybody has a purpose, and purpose evolves over time. It's not something that just drops out the sky on you. It's something that you have to work towards, and sometimes you work through different paths to get there. So for everybody who would be, cautious about their past, or who would kind of be skeptical about what they want to do with themselves, if anything I would want them to take from me, it would be to just pursue that greatness. And regardless of what you may go through, don't stop, because it's always a piece that can push you to purpose. You know what I'm saying? It's a piece of that passion that can push you to purpose if you just keep pushing.
Okay. See, you know what? You were concerned about being ready for a podcast. I think you've been waiting. I think you've been waiting to spill what's in your mind and your heart. So I think I'm just grateful that you're on the podcast today.
Oh, thanks, Coach. Thank you.
So how do you let me ask you this. If you could define yourself with one word, what would it be?
If I could define myself in one word, what would it be?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Great. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it would be great.
Okay. Why?
Because I've learned, and this, let me tell you why I say that. I've learned that the word great, and maybe because it's the English teacher that I am, it has various meanings, okay?
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is we all know what the simple word, great means, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But the word great means, not only does it mean large in numbers, you know what I mean, but it means wonderful, first rate, and then it just means being in extreme or notable degree, if you will. So it's a plethora of things that can make a person great. But if you don't believe that you're great, then you can't pursue whatever it is that you really desire in life. Like if I pursue to be a great mom, it was a time when coaching was my everything. So I wanted to be great at that. So I studied that. You know what I'm saying? But then I realized that, okay, I'm slacking a little bit as a mom. I'm slacking as a wife. So I'm like, okay, let me figure out how to be great in all these areas. So if I can just perfect me in those different places, then I feel great. But before I can do all of that, I gotta feel great about me. You know what I'm saying? To be able to be a better mom, a better wife, better teacher, a better coach. So that's just something. I have great on multiple sticky notes around my house, Coach. Like even in my kids' rooms in the morning when they get ready to go to school, they have a whole slogan that we fist bump and they say on the way out the door. Do your best, nothing less, be great. And that's it, stay out. And that's every morning. So if it was one word to describe me right now, at the phase I'm in my life, that's why it would be great.
Okay. Yes, it's crazy because Be Great, the athletic coordinator at my school wanted me to press, because I press T-shirts on the side as well. So he wanted me to press something. Hey, look, I'm a hustler. You already know what it is as an educator. You got to hustle. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? When the school year started, I counted that we had, I think, 200. I think we had 187, maybe 186 days, calendar days to work, right? And so that roughly works out to about 50.85, 50.86, depending on the number of days in a year that we're working in a 365 calendar year. Now, obviously, 10-month contract people like we are, it's a little differently, but we got to hustle those other, that other, if it's 51%, that other 49%, you got to find a way to hustle that. So
absolutely.
My colleague was like, hey, can you press this on the back of these jerseys? And he wanted me to press Be Great on the back of the jersey. So I think that it falls in line with what you're saying, because I think that that's the mind state that we have to have towards the kids, or instill that into the kids so that they have some sign of like, okay, this is what I'm shooting for.
Right.
You know
and then see, like, yeah, I totally do. And it's funny that you said about printing it, because, and I'm a wordy person, so I'm big on acronyms. But one thing that, my family or my sister has kind of taught us, and we use it as an acronym for GREAT. And it's grace, refined, eternally anointed task. We're a spiritual family, so that's how we look at it. But it's grace, refined, eternally anointed task. So that means I'm forever anointed to do whatever task, is put before me, because I have refined grace to do it. God's going to continue to allow me to do it if I do it in the right way. If, sowing and reaping. If I sow the right thing to my kids, I reap the right thing. That's one thing when people say, man, everybody, or my kids go to school in Fort Bend, I teach in this district, and they're like, yeah, but you know why? Because every time I walk into one of those schools and I work, I make sure I treat those kids fairly, because I have kids of my own that I want to be treated that way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's all a law. So.
Yeah. I'm just grateful that in a selfish moment for myself turned out to be something that's going to be a long-lasting relationship between you and I. And we'll get into the aspect of the writing part in a second. But, initially I was just like, hey, you know what? I want you to check it out, because that's the only way that you'll be able to ever expand is if you step out there and you say, hey, you know what? This is what I do outside. You see me here, and this is my lane right here. We're both in the same lane. I'm a coach. You're a coach. But this is what I do when I clock out from work. I'm a artist. And so check me out. And I'm glad in that selfish moment you said, yeah. And you said, yeah, I'll check you out. I'm starting a blog. And I said, there it is. Because the What's Next podcast is all about bringing creatives out and finding about their journeys and depicting their visions. So in this journey of yours, I want to start here with it. Creativity comes from experiences. Okay. As a writer, I want to know your first steps into writing, what that looked like, and then how you go from becoming a writer to wanting to create a blog.
Oh, okay. So I'll give you the short version.
No, listen. Hold on. Wait a minute. You ain't got to give me the short version. We got some time. You ain't got to give me the short version. Come on.
Okay.
We got some time.
Okay, big. So I honestly started writing when I was 12 years old.
Okay.
And I initially started writing music. Okay. So this is how this whole writing journey began. My family is very musical. So I came from a very musical family, and we all are talented with voices and things like that. Well, I always liked writing from the beginning, so I started writing music again at about 12 years old. Had a group. We had management back in the day. They had an award show, Sammy Davis Jr. Award Show. I'll never forget it. It was at Stafford Civic Center. And we went and we won, Coach. But ask me what group we won against.
Who y'all won against?
Destiny's Child. Okay? We beat them out in this group. So at the time, I didn't know, I'm going to be honest with you, at the time they was called Girls Time. So I didn't know, and we were young. So now looking back on it, I'm like, damn, we was pretty cold. So we beat them, but the kicker for me was not that we won the contest, but that I won for songwriting at the age of 12. Now, I'm understanding in this contest, I had to be one of the youngest songwriters in there. There was a lot of people in the contest, or a lot of groups or what have you. So did that, and we were asked to go to L.A. to audition for the very record label that they got their first record deal from. But we didn't go. Two of the girls that I was in the group with, one of the parents didn't agree on us going. They said we were too young, blah, blah, blah. We didn't go, and the rest was history. Now you got Girls Time, you got Destiny's Child, that's that. But from that moment on, I knew that my gift was real. You understand? Mm-hmm. I knew that if I could write at 12 years old like that, and we win, and we be potentially able to get a record deal, then shit, I could do it, Yeah. So from that point on, I think my sister told me years later, she was like, I think you kind of went into it. Then we didn't know what that was. She was like, but I think it was like a depression. You was so hurt about what didn't happen. Yeah. So I just started to write every day, all day. Yeah. So by the time I got to high school, I probably had 2 binders full of music catalog. I had 2 music catalogs of songs that I had written and poetry that I had written and stuff like that. Mm. And so that just carried on with me through high school. And then when I got to college, I started working on music and everything. I thought that music was my path. You get what I'm saying? So I started doing that. I was writing for different, labels and selling music and trying to get that going. And I was attending college at North Texas in Dallas, in Denton. And so during that time, I had a catalog that was stolen. A lot of people knew that I was doing music and it was stolen. And I never forget, I called my sister and I was just like, it's over. Like they had one of my catalogs and I just heard my music on the radio up here in Dallas. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't know at that time, I was just writing. I didn't know much about copywriting, didn't really care. I just wanted to write. So in that moment, I began to get serious about whatever I wrote.
So wait a minute. Mm-hmm. You had a catalog, somebody stole your catalog and then published one of your songs? Produced one of your records?
We heard more than one. We heard more than one.
Damn.
Yeah, they stole the catalog. But it was nothing, like my sister was saying, because she was in college, she was like, it's nothing you can do. You used to write for therapy, but you weren't copywriting anything. So I was an athlete in college and we traveled and things like that. And I think, I don't know who, what, where, but it was taken out of, one of my bags, one of my duffel bags or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people on campus knew that I did music, because I wrote a lot, and I wasn't in the music department. So at a school that's known for music, if you're not in the music department and they know you're doing music, word kind of travels. I called my sister, and then about 6 months later, we heard another one on the radio up there. So I was kind of trying to track the artist. We kind of were doing all of that and trying to see about, my catalog, or at least getting this, that, and the third, and it was a hassle. So I just, my sister was like, forget it. Forget it. Don't worry about it. God bless you. We'll work on this, that, and the third. And we did that. So from that point on, I just was much more cautious about what I wrote and where I left my jewels. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
That was a learning thing for me. But after that, Coach, I think I kind of went into a state where I had gotten a little bit older. I had my oldest son, and I kind of switched my mindset. I kind of started thinking about how much I just love to write. And my sister was like, kind of telling me about different things I could do with it. And I love teaching people how to write, or writing for other people. Like, that's how I made money in college.
Yeah.
Most people have side jobs. I picked up a side job, but I quit my side job. I was writing papers for TAs in college that were getting their master's, and I was still getting my bachelor. You see what I'm saying? So I knew I was cold with it. So I was like, well, I can quit this little telemarketing job and and write this lady dissertation or write this person's thesis and get a couple $100 or whatever the case may be. So that's what I started doing. That was my job in college.
Yeah.
Teachers on campus knew me for that. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of took that route. So when I did that, my older sister, when I came home, I had my son like my junior year of college, and she was an administrator at a school, at a charter school.
Yeah.
And she put me on. She was like, "You gonna come over here and teach English?" I was like, "Man, I don't even have my degree. I don't have nothing." She was like, "You teach English better than anybody I got here. So you come on over here and teach English." That's how I got thrusted into education. My sister was like, "You want to write? I'm gonna make you teach these kids how to write." So she put me in 4th grade, because that was 4th grade writing, right? Then it went up to middle school, so I did 6th and 7th grade. I prepped 6th grade for 7th grade writing, and I loved it. That's what got me started in education. From there, we did after-school programs where we would go in and teach the arts. We did T-shirt print, because my sister has had a print company for over 20 years. We did candle making. You ever heard of Simply Scent with Shan? Simply Scent candles? Okay. Now her stuff is in Walgreens and everywhere else. She started with our after-school program to push through the city of Houston. So we just started getting people that were using their gifts to give back to the kids. And so that's when I started doing the songwriting and poetry and things like that in the after-school program to teach them how to pass the STAR. And my kids were passing in all the schools we were in, from Houston to Channelview to Bay Area, Bay City. We was moving. So from that, Coach, I was like, hell, I can make my own writing curriculum. You know what I'm saying? I can infuse the music side of things because I know music. I was a drum major at Willow Ridge High School. Come on, Eagle. But I was a drum major.
Hold on, wait a minute. I gotta slow you up.
Yeah, bring it back.
Hold on, I gotta slow you up because I'm from the Southwest and I went to Booker T. Washington. We the real Eagles in Houston, Texas. Okay.
Oh, Booker T.
Okay.
Here we go.
You said Willow Ridge. We the real Eagles in in Houston, Texas.
Here we go. Did y'all march at the Rose Bowl?
Of course we did. I'm lying. I don't know.
Did you march at the Orange Bowl?
I'm lying.
No, come on, don't do me now.
I'm lying. I don't know what we did, but I know that we were the baby ocean of soul.
Yeah. Yeah, y'all were.
Holla at us.
Yeah.
Holla at
But
us.
no.
Class of 2003. Holla at us.
Man, but yeah, so I just went, Coach, like to infuse all of that. But seriously, that musical background that I had, and then the writing, the love and passion for writing that I had, and I began to create my own curriculum.
Yeah.
But while I was doing that, it was over the years, and I was teaching. When I was in certain schools, the schools loved me, the kids did, so they allowed me to do that. Even at Sterling, with the job that I have now, I love my bosses because they allow me to do me, and it works. My kids pass.
Yeah.
I have not had anything less than 75%, even at an inner city school where I barely my kids work, on the STAR. The highest I've gotten is 96%, and it wasn't pre-AP. So I'm like, I can get them to write. I can teach a dead dog how to read and write if you need to, but I can do that. That's my gift. But now I'm in a place to where I want that gift to be lucrative for me. Mm-hmm. And I want to be able to pour into the kids. You get what I'm saying?
No doubt.
So that's where we get to the evolvement of the blog and things like that. Because currently, I have a writing business, which was how I evolved to the website. Mm-hmm. So The Unorthodox Educator was actually just an email I created, and I called it the writing wheel. So I have the writing wheel, and I send out things to my clients or emails to people. And I have a lot of college clients. I have a lot of other people that have businesses where I do copywriting for their websites and their blogs, and they pay me for that. I have people that I help write for their courses, like I've been doing since college, and they pay me for that. So that has gotten to a point to where it made me take a double look or a double take at my day job. Because when I'm making money from writing, more money than I'm making on my regular job at the school in a month from doing what I love, that's when you start to realize, okay, yeah, I can really do this for a living. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
So when it got to that point, and I was like, okay, it's just got to get consistent. I might hit it that mark 1 month, but it's got to get consistent. Well, I went back into coaching because I missed it. And so that's kind of where I feel like I realized, let me go ahead and do this website and go ahead and set up this blog, because that will allow me the time and the room to write and do what I need to do. The reason being is because so many of my kids come to me with their concerns and their problems, or to pray for them or whatever. Like, I have those type of relationships. And I'm like, that's the catch-22 with me coming out of education. I don't want to come out of education because I don't want to miss that.
Yeah.
So God kind of dropped it in my spirit. Like, do you remember when they used to have those Dear Abby letters, Coach?
No.
And back in the day, it was like a Dear Abby letter. Okay, we might be too young. No, just playing. But it's a Dear Abby letter, and what it is they used to write these anonymous letters to Abby, right? And it could come from an adult kid or whatever, and she would respond. Mm-hmm. Well, I want to have a platform on my blog for my kids, because I'm an educator at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. So I want to have a place to where they can anonymously write to me, and that'll, funnel through my email or what have you, but where they can write these letters, and I can post the different letters that are written anonymously and then respond, because what one person might be going through, 10 more people might be going through.
Yeah.
And that's like me being able to counsel teenagers and youth from my website when God allows me to remove myself from education altogether.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
I do.
And that's kind of why I even wanted to start the blog, if you really want to be honest, because I was writing a book. I was taking all of those stories that I've gotten over the years from myself, my journey and my walk, to my kids, and it was going to be a memoir, and I'm still working on that. That's the memoir of an educator. Yeah. And it's telling you the things that we go through as an educator, and how, we really value, a lot of us really do value our jobs and what we do and how we pour into your kids. So don't take that for granted.
Yeah.
But now, with everything going on, I'm like, I can get the book. I can write the book, because I just want to be an author as far as a novel, a best-selling novel. But I want to be able to, in the meantime and in between time, reach the kids, the parents, and even my colleagues, in a way in which it's in spurts. And I can do that through my website and my blog.
Yeah. Let me ask you right quick, Coach. I'm looking at, because I'm trying to follow you on Instagram. Is it the with the two E's, or is it just one E?
On Instagram, it's with two E's.
Because I don't see it. I'm not pulling it up. Hold
on, let me see. I'm sorry. On Instagram, it's one E.
Okay. And
THE. That's on my email, and my website is two.
So is it the one that says Education for Real Educators?
Yep.
That's you?
I was just going to tell you the tag. Yep, you're right.
Okay,
Education for Real Educators.
Okay, I got you. I mean, dang, I was like, where? I know I'm typing it in right. Where is it? Okay. I see you.
Oh, and I'm up too. Look, you made me go to Instagram. I ain't even really been on here. I got some more followers, Coach. I'm doing pretty good on here.
Okay.
I'm going to get my game up. I'm not big on social media.
I think that's got to change.
But I'm working on it.
That's got to change.
I know. You sound like my son. They
Yeah.
like, Mama, you got to get relevant. I'm like, I can write from where I'm at. Yeah, but don't nobody know what you're doing. My sister said all the time, don't nobody know how well you can write if you don't publicize it.
No doubt.
I'm like, okay.
I agree with that. So, creating your blog, who are your top bloggers that you used references from to be able to start? Who do you look up to when it comes to blogging?
Okay, so for me, I got a couple.
Okay.
But I would honestly say that it's a difference for me, because I guess I want to say I'm competitive. I'm a coach. So I don't really have people that I look up to per se, but I have those that I see how successful their blogs may be. Does that make sense?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
It's
So,
fun. Go ahead. Keep going. Keep going.
No. What you about to say?
No, it's funny because episode 61, I brought on one of my friends who's a sister to me. She's a mother of 3, and we were talking. But more importantly, my editor, her name is Tempest Green. She's an English teacher as well, who has a blog, and is a mother of 3 going on, right? And so, I was texting her the other day, and if she sees this, I hope that she doesn't feel that I'm like knocking her. I was texting her the other day, and I was like, yo, it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter if you're not, like, just get it out. You know what I'm saying? Right. Because you got a lot to build from. You're a mother. You deal with other women's kids. You teach. You're creative. Get it out. Like, just get the blog popping, because eventually I was always like, hey, check out her blog. Check out her blog on the podcast. And when she stopped posting, because her posts were great, she would write in spurts, and we were getting ready to do these things for her blog. And I was just like, get it out. And she was like, I'm just not inspired to post, or it's not right. Like, she was saying that her energy right now and the blog's direction wasn't right. Do you have those same type of feelings?
I didn't hear you. Do I do what?
Do you have those same type of feelings when you're writing? Sometimes you might be disconnected.
Oh yeah.
So what do you do with them?
Not only do you feel disconnected, but sometimes I get writer's block. But whenever I get like that, I'm a music person. I'm a music geek. So it depends on what my mood is. It depends on what type of music I put on. Like,
okay.
if I'm getting, for instance, and anybody who know me, I keep saying this because I promise you can ask family or my kids at work, and they'll tell you. Whenever Coach is in a bad mood, Miss Rowe is not in the best of moods, or what have you, they know exactly. They be like, she about to put on Kendrick Lamar.
Okay. Okay. Before you go there, what song's on your mind right now? What song's on your mind?
What song? What you say?
What song's on your mind? I do that because I think that as a creative, sometimes when we're in that creation process, songs propel us and push us. Like, they give us the motivation to keep going on that creative journey. So, what song's on your mind right now, since you're a music geek?
Kendrick Lamar, Big Shot.
Okay.
You ever heard that?
What is that off of? Which one is that off of? That's not on Section 80, is it?
No, and it's on. Okay, it's on the Black Panther album too. A lot of people heard it off of there. It's on the album, but it's on there. But that song get me rocking because it's just like talking about being a big shot.
Oh yeah, I have heard it. I have Big Shot. Yeah, I have heard it. I have heard that record. Yeah, I have, of course. Okay,
that's my jam.
Go ahead. You were explaining. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You were explaining.
No, you good. That song get me going because of what he's talking about. He's saying what it feels like to be a big shot in his world, what kind of car he driving, what he doing. Like, it just makes you know, like, man, this is where I'm at right now. You know, same thing with, now I can put on anything from Kendrick Lamar, I can put on anything from Jay-Z, and I'm rocking. Okay?
Okay. And
but that's the thing, because what they talk about to me sometimes be motivational. Now, if I'm in my deep thought and I'm feeling real hip hopish, old school, like 80s baby, like I am, then you might hear me put on Talib Kweli.
Okay.
You feel what I'm saying? I'm
Okay.
a jam that. I'm a jam me some old school Common, old school Nas.
Okay.
But then if I'm in a place where I might really be dealing with family issues or my kids or my husband, you know, real issues that we deal with, then you're going to hear me put on my worship music and my praise and worship music. Even at work, my kids be like, uh-oh, she got a gospel music on. And it might be instrumental or it might be with words.
Yeah.
But they know when she put on Marvin Sapp and Smokey Norton, she trying to get some answers. She trying to hear something. She's trying to figure something out. You know, so for me, I can pretty much gauge my music pick by my emotions or my emotions by my music. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
but I've always been that way.
I do.
When I go into writer's block, I can do that.
I'm glad you mentioned Nas, because to me, Nas is the greatest MC to ever do it. So what songs on my mind when it comes to Nas is I'm gonna go off his second LP. I'm gonna go with "I Gave You Power" because you were talking about empowering kids, and we've been talking about that throughout the duration of the episode. But "I Gave You Power" because in that record he is empowering the guy who is holding him as a gun, right? And he's talking about how the cycle of having the power in that gun jumps from person to person. So at the end of the record, he shot the guy. So he's the gun in the record, right? And the guy holding him is shot, and then somebody else picks him up, and the cycle continues again. So that's called "I Gave You Power" by Nas. And I'm thinking about J.R.E.A.T. Win too. Win. J.R.E.A.T, you said Kendrick Lamar, and I know they run on the same label. Yeah. So I was thinking about J.R.E.A.T as well. Win.
Yeah.
So
and it's like, you know,
go ahead.
I think, and to answer your question earlier, I'm not I can't say I have some written down bloggers and stuff that I follow. But because I'm more of a writer, I pattern myself, my writing style, even for my blog and what I want to do with the website. Like, I'm not techie, right, Coach? But I wanted to, like, build my own website from the beginning. Then I'm going to let somebody run it and manage it and make it all pretty. But I wanted to know what was going on behind the scenes because it's mine. You know what I'm saying? It's been taking me a minute between teaching and coaching. And that's another thing. When you said about being off, I'm kind of like, this is a blessing for me because I'm allowed, even though it's crazy with teaching, I'm allowed that extra time to hone my craft, you know?
Yeah.
So I look at it like I'm not really looking at the better bloggers of this time, which I have looked at and wrote them down, and I got stuff on my dream board and all. But the writers that have been on my dream board are Black women like Toni Morrison and Alice Walker and Octavia Butler, you know, people that Maya Angelou, people that some people haven't heard of, and if you're really a writer, then maybe you have. You know what I'm saying? Zora Neale, like people like that are people that I've been reading their work, and I've been a fan of them for years. You know, so I try to write that way. That's one thing that my sister and I, we've met with a few people in writing before, and with me trying to write these books. And that's one of the first things they say is that, you know, oh, you want to be a Black writer, you know, you want to be a Black author. I'm like, yeah, I am a Black writer and I am a Black author.
Yeah.
But they don't want me to gear it towards just my people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because they consider that not to be the most marketable space.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so just being very honest and candid, I think that's my biggest thing right now is because that's what my heart is. My heart is with my people.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I want to really step too far outside of that when it comes to creating my brand for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Do you feel that your brand, that the students you teach and coach are part of your brand?
Yes.
I do too.
Yes.
I do too.
Yes, it is.
And that's why for me, it's been, because, you know, I love education. I think that for me, the highlight of being an educator has always been the schedule. That's always been the schedule. The schedule has always been the highlight of being an educator for me. What I found out, another highlight for me was watching the maturation of kids as they evolve.
Yep.
You know, I remember and especially this year. This year I was really like, man, I'm just enjoying it. I coach basketball at Waltrip too, JV, and this is my second year coaching JV basketball, and we had never beaten y'all before. See, it's so. Listen, we were meant to do this podcast because as a JV coach, as a basketball coach, I have never beaten Sterling High School until this year. Shout out to my brother Drew
really?
Bedford. My brother Dan Drew Bedford is a Raider. He graduated from Sterling High School in 2004, but we never beat Sterling until this year. And when we took the first W from y'all over at Sterling, man, it was magical. My wife was there. Kids were hitting 3-pointers, and we just between me and you, Coach, we just outplayed y'all. We murdered y'all. I'm just be honest. We ended up 10-3. We lost to Madison.
And see, I came there in the middle of this year, in November. Yeah. I came into that job.
So you started late.
They wanted me. Yeah, I did, and because I was actually on medical leave before I even took that job. I was coming from Lamar Consolidated in it, and I was working out there and coaching as well, coaching basketball, assistant coach. So when I came to Sterling, they wanted me to take the job, and I was like, well, you know what? Let me just get my feedback with, because I had been on medical leave for quite some time for health reasons. And so I was kind of like, okay. So when I picked up the softball job, I was like, they were really needing help, and the head coach is really great. And I was like, you know what? And he kind of allowed me the leeway to, do what I needed to do and coach. So that's what made me take that job. But what I had heard was that previously they had a pretty good basketball team.
Yeah.
So I know you're right. I heard that they had a pretty good team.
Well, listen, they had a kid a couple of years ago who was 6'8". I think he went to U of H, but we couldn't get past. Listen, nobody at Waltrip High School outside of my man, Coach Morris, has gotten past Sterling in the past 4 years. Coach Morris beat Sterling. It was like 3 years ago. Before he got the head coaching job, the second half of the season, he went 8-0 on JV, which propelled him throughout the rest of the season. He ended up getting a head coaching job. But it wasn't until this year where we took 3 out of 4 games on the lower levels. Well, actually, I'm sorry. On all levels, we swept Sterling this year. We're 6-0 versus Sterling this year. We beat them all on all 3 levels.
We're not gonna bring up softball, but okay.
I'm talking about basketball.
Because I was there.
And so Sterling, man, it's just, those kids and them being a part of my brand, just coaching, just to feel how surreal it felt in that game, like when your kids, when everything you've practiced is coming out alive on court. And we're winning, and everybody's happy. We're smiling, we're cheering. I was like, man, this right here is just everything that I've ever dreamt about.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. Yeah. So today is April the 18th, 2020, and we have 257 days left in the 2020 year. What do you hope to attain in 257 days?
What do I what?
Hope to attain in 257 days with your blog and personally? So
within that time frame, those amount of days, well, when you say it like that, I'm like, man, that ain't giving me a lot of time. But my goal is to by the end of the year, not only to have my blog and my website up and running, but the writing wheel, I want to have accrued at least another 20 clients because I have 3 people that are ready to come aboard my staff for revising and editing and being editors on my writing staff.
Yeah.
So I need to pick up more clients so that I can pay them accordingly. So I want to pick up at least 20 consistent more clients. Lastly, my family, I have siblings and my siblings are the best, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to go ahead and start vlogging.
Okay.
And I was the most hesitant one of all of them, as you can see. So we already started recording for our show that we're going to post and have, and it's going to be called Dim Rose. Okay, so it's real crazy because my family is crazy, but everybody is like crazily gifted. So we're going to start that. So by the end of the year, we plan to have started that, get that going and popping. And then I want to be able to have a private showing once my blog and everything goes up.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have a private sitting where people come and they, we actually you get to hear the intricate parts of me putting that blog together.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to do like a stage, and a lot of people think I'm really funny, but I don't really think I'm all that funny. But I'm going to do like what I would call a soliloquy of being an Orthodox educator. And it's going to be alive, and it's going to, we planning that. And by the end of the year, that's my big event to end the year out. I want to be able to introduce my blog and website to people, a select few people. Have a live band there and have some action and the things that I like, so you can actually get the unorthodox educator experience.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to do for this year. That's already up and in the works.
Yeah. You know what, Coach?
Slow down a little bit with this, but yeah, that's what I want to do.
You know what I didn't ask you? You've talked a lot about music. Do you have any records that you have produced and are ready to be heard?
What you mean? That I recorded?
Yeah, that you sung and recorded on. That you
not anymore. Now everything I do, I write for someone else.
Okay.
I ghostwrite, and then they lay it down or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
Because I came out of that, Coach. Like I said, I think once I went through that phase, and after I got kind of hurt or whatever in college,
yeah,
I rarely went back in the studio. You talking about somebody that stayed in the studio from I was 12 years old to 20-something years old.
Yeah.
So I stopped going, but I kept writing, and I would ghostwrite, and I would play. It's funny you asked me that, because my sister was like, so you never going to go back in the studio? Like, you just never going to,
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I think I just want to ghostwrite, and I think I just want music, song placements. So, yeah, I don't. I don't. Everything I have is written and copywritten, and then somebody else covers it. So
Okay.
when my sister hear this, I guarantee you she going to at me or call me and be like, I told you. Because you asked her. I'm telling you.
Yo, so as a writer, can you give me 3 writers that you look at for inspiration and tell me like what your writing process is like? I know it's a little late in the episode to do that, because when you brought that up, I was like, okay, we might have to get back on here again when you drop some of these projects so we could talk again about them. But as a writer, who do you look up to as a writer?
Okay, so first things first, who do I look up to as a writer is, I'm going to give you one first, which would be Toni Morrison.
Rest in peace.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I cried. You have no idea.
Yeah.
I have been a fan of hers. The first book that I read was The Bluest Eye. And I had to be middle school when I read The Bluest Eye.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like so intrigued by the way she talked about, like what went on in that book. And I was like, man. Then later on, I read Song of Solomon, and I was like, man, if I could learn how to illustrate my pen like that, like I'm be sick,
Mm.
So that's kind of like my first person that I was like captivated by. Then later on, Maya Angelou became one that I really looked at because I had really got into writing poetry at that time. So I looked up to her because of the way she, used like racism and identity and stuff like that in the South, and she just made it sound so lyrically, okay, even though it wasn't okay, just because of the way she did it. And so I was a big fan of hers. And so I look up to her. And then Zora Neale, she killed it during the Harlem Renaissance. And I'm big on music. So, Harlem Renaissance was big for music. And to be honest with you, reading her things, Their Eyes Were Watching God, was the way that I learned to write fiction, but using musical content from, just reading and being a fan of Zora Neale Hurston. So those are 3 females that I really look up to. And then when it comes to Negro writers, as far as men, when it comes to talking about colored people and just dealing with Black people during that time, Langston Hughes and James Baldwin, their wordplay is like none other. So whenever I get caught on a phrase or I want to go back and make that phrase deeper than what I would normally say, I always can refer back to something that they've said or something that they've written. And a lot of times in their writing, they were teachers, so they would tell you how to make certain words or phrases pop. So I could go back and read their little notes that I've highlighted and stuff like that. And then it'll kind of help me when I get in that writer's block. Because sometimes my writer's block is not like the average person. I've already written something, but now I want to go back and make it deeper, Yeah. And that has even posed to be a problem for me for management. My sister be like, okay, yeah, you're trying to be extra deep, but nobody want to hear that right now. Like, you need to tell them exactly what like, she'd be on it with me because I'm very wordy. But sometimes she be absolutely right. She was like, it depends on who your audience is when you go that deep.
No doubt.
No doubt. So, yeah. Those my peeps right there. Those five are that's my fab five.
Yeah. What do you think makes a good writer?
What I think makes a good writer is patience. Patience, because a good writer has to be patient. You have to be able to not only write, but you got to be able to sit on that for a minute, go back, revise it, edit it. Then you got to go back and read it again. It don't all come at one time. You have to be patient in being a writer, but at the same time, you have to. For me, it's just like with writing music. You have to have gone through something.
Yeah.
Even if you're a kid writer, you have to have gone through something to be able to tell it to somebody else in a way in which they listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree. How many of your kids can you see as an English teacher? Again, I got to commend y'all because I figured out a way as a math teacher to minimalize the amount of work I do at home in terms of grading, right? With finding various programs that can grade the work. All the kids have to do is turn the work in. They grade the work online from them. I just collect that grade and populate it into the grade book. But as an English teacher, you guys have to read so much. So I got to commend you, one, on being an English teacher. But how many of your kids do you see or feel have a future if they want to become published authors or even writers? How many of your kids do you feel have that potential?
I'm gonna be honest with you. It's always a very small percentage.
Yeah.
So when I see it, I kind of grab those kids. For instance, where I am now, the kids that I have out of the 130 something kids I have now, I have like 5 that I'm like they can really write. But out of that 5, only 3 of them care that they can write, and that's the difference. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Those three are reaching out to me online. Those 3 will come by my room or slip little notes under my door when school was still in and say, "Hey, I'm writing this for something else. Can you proof this, Coach?
Of course.
Can you proof this, Ms. Rowe? Or I'm working on this at home. This is my home journal." Like when I see people like that, I know. My school last year, I had a special kid. And she still reaches out to me today, and she's one of the ones who push me. She be like, "Coach, we still waiting on your book. We still waiting on your blog." You know what I'm saying? Like, but she can write her ass off. Do you hear me? She reminds me of me in college, not high school, in college.
Yeah.
So, and I told her that. I was like, "Man, you have a gift, but you know what, Coach? She don't want to write. She want to do something else.
Yeah.
But what she wants to do." I'm like, do you know that this writing can pay for that? Like, she want to go to school and be like a doctor or something. Like, she's very smart. And that's cool. And I told her that. I say, but you can get a scholarship in writing.
Yeah.
You can go to school for this. Like, there's scholarships out there. So I entered her into a contest before I left the school district last year. And, and she placed. And I wasn't surprised. She's good.
So
but sometimes you get them and they're really good, but they don't want to do it.
So is it patience that makes her great, or when she's writing on the paper, what do you see that makes her so great?
Man, her words are so colorful. Like she can play with those words in a way in which I didn't learn to do that until college. And that was because I read and read and read, and I read through different rhyming dictionaries and different, like I studied certain things to pick up that vocab. And her words are so colorful that they come off the paper.
Yeah.
When she tell you a story about something that went on at home, she can literally put you in the center of what's going on at home without using anybody's name, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like, she's gifted at it. She really, really is. And we talk, even though I'm not at that school, we talk often, and I've told her, like, I'm not pressuring her, but I'm letting her know how valuable, of a gift she has, and that can help make room for her in other areas. So, she'll be a junior on top of that. She'll be a junior next year.
Wow.
So she's young, but she's gifted.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. And then, like, I have one right now at Sterling. She's from Australia, right? But she's at Sterling. She's cold. She's gifted. I have a young man in my class, and I told him, I was like, dude, you remind me of the way James Baldwin wrote when he first started out, and I read it. And I told him about James Baldwin. So, you know how we have all those libraries of books in HISD, they give us all those bins. So I went and found James Baldwin's books for him to take home and read, because he reads. And I'm like, dude, you need to read up on him because you remind me a lot of him. Now, this particular kid loves to write. He wants to be a writer.
No doubt.
So it's easy to push a kid like that, but the kids that are great and who don't really see how great they are at it, or don't really want to do it, because it does take patience and it does take persistence. You're going to run across those from time to time, and they just don't love it like that. And that's cool. But the ones that do, Coach, are very few and far between.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I haven't found a kid like that was good in math. I'm talking about, like, I used to have a homeboy when I was in high school who could do 3 to 4, maybe even 6 digits in his head, right? And it's.
I got a headache already.
It's it's a way that you do it. It's a way that you do it. If you look at numbers, and so if you look at 1,000, like, let's just say 1,360. If you look at that number as 1,300 units, 60 units, and 0 units of 1, and then you multiply that by another one, he could do all of that in his head. And I haven't found a kid that can do math like that.
See, that's crazy.
Yeah. As number sense. I haven't found a kid that has any practice in number sense. So, yeah, I think that's a special thing. I want to read some of her stuff. If you say it jumps off the page, because I've read, when we've done Telpass, I've read some stuff in Spanish, some stuff in English that was just like, oh, wow, man, y'all are going through it. Jesus.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah,
but that's interesting. Coach, most importantly, the last question I'll ask is, what's next for you?
What's next for me is probably going to be, I think I want to go into writing for media and entertainment.
I'm glad you said that.
Writing, what you say?
I said I'm glad you said that, because we're gonna have a talk off the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, my sister's kind of been. I know you keep hearing you're gonna have to have her on. I've said her ass about 5-6 times, right? But my sister has been pushing me to do this, and I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I just want to be one of the best-selling authors in the world. That's what I've been saying for years. Yeah. And she's like, Dana, writing is evolving, and you can write anything. Yeah. So I'm actually right now, Coach. Since we've been out on COVID, I had already looked into it before this, but I got a call from Full Sail. Yeah. And my sister has her master's, one of them from Full Sail or whatever. But they called me and they have a creative writing class. I actually did a contest or something through another link, and it ended up going for them. So they called me, offered me a scholarship on one of their programs, which is creative writing. But basically, that's what it is. And it's giving me all the different levels of it. It's teaching me screenwriting and playwriting and things like that. Yeah. So I think I'm going to tap into that. I think that's what's next. I think it's going to be cool. It might be hard as hell, but I think it's going to be cool.
So here's the thing. I just text your phone. I just text you my email address. If you would text me just to say that you received it, I want to send you a script that I wrote in New York City last year. And I want to see what you think
That's
about it.
on my bucket list.
Okay, to go to New York?
Yep, never been.
Okay, it's a beautiful place. But I wrote a script. I said it's a beautiful place. When I go out there, I get creative, and so I wrote. Well, when I say creative, I get super creative. I get motivated to just write. So I wrote a script, and I'm interested to see what you think about it. I can email it to you in a second when we get off.
Okay.
So and then we'll talk a little bit more about why I'm sending you this script.
Okay. Good, Coach.
But look. So here's the thing. Normally, again, we're social distancing. So normally, what I do is I bring guests onto the podcast, and at the end of the podcast, I give everybody a token of myself and my company to them. So that token comes in the form of a T-shirt. It'll be 2 T-shirts. One will be the exclusive SVI black T-shirt, and the other one will be the exclusive podcast T-shirt that I'm wearing in this episode. So I'm gonna text you, get your T-shirt sizes off air, and I'll send you those. Okay. I'll send them to you, or I can meet them and drop them off to you. But I just want you to know that I'm appreciative of your time, and I know that we'll be working a lot more together in the future.
Right. Oh, thank you. You come bearing gifts. Okay.
No doubt. You got anything else?
No, I don't. I just really want to say thank you for having me. I hope I did, the podcast justice for my first time, but I really enjoyed it.
Listen, I
really did.
You opened up the doors. We got a lot more to talk about, so we have more. Look, this is episode number 62. It was my goal to drop 100 this year, so I got 38 more to do this year. So don't worry, we got plenty of time to come back and talk about the projects that you drop in the future. That's what this platform's all about.
There. I appreciate it, Coach.
No doubt. Houston, Texas, home sweet home. I do what I do for myself to prove that I could do it for others. Coach Rowe, say bye.
What's up with it? All right, holla.
Yo, it feel like 95. Sachi on my body. Biggie, chicken, puffy, all that ballin' is a hobby. And I'm wildin' in my wallies. And them valleys, no Pilates. More way, get you more wet. Nah, that's these Spumante. My crystal ball. I saw the sign like Ace of Spades. That Ace of Spades get cracked. I'm like, cheers to the money guy. The Willie nigga who buy them bottles. And then they spill these liquors. Yo, salute my dude. I see you. 5 bottles, 1 hit. Why I need 2 bras? I know I'm out of line, but love is shower time. You know it rose rain when your cloud is 9. Get off that high ass hussy. This a private party. Been on my dick too long. Your breath on private party. You gon' be nice and naughty. These walls on priceless arty. This the upper crust. Fuck is up. Over and done.